The Sorry State of Decentralized Finance Security by Stefan Beyer, Oak Security.
So, hello everyone. So, after 3 days of positiveness and, I'm here to put a bit of a bumper on things. So I'm going to talk about security, which in the DeFi space is a problem, as we all know. So I work for Oak Security. We are a security company. We audit smart contracts and we audit whole DeFi protocols at layer 1 and layer 2. We do a lot of cryptography and we work with these platforms that you can see up here. And when I say there's a sorry state of DeFi security, we've all seen the news and there's a problem in DeFi security and things go wrong, right? So let's look at some examples. So that's a timeline of a real project. This happened last year. It's cherry-picked, but it's a good example and it's fairly typical. So on a Tuesday evening, a set of smart contracts are deployed. And then on the Wednesday afternoon, there's $500 million in these smart contracts in terms of liquidity. On Wednesday evening, someone discovers a bug, and by Thursday morning, the price is completely collapsed. Another example which also happened, and this is a smaller project, but it's an interesting example. So a project raises $4.3 million for a slippage-free DeFi protocol. So everyone knows slippage is a big problem in liquidity pools, particularly smaller pools. But what they then do is they go off and deploy a fork of an existing project without really understanding it. And on the first day of the project, within 7 minutes, almost 8 Bitcoin are lost to the first users. Which, it's not a lot of money compared to other incidents and other projects. But it's just interesting that this was meant to be a slippage-free solution. Then there's this problem, which we probably have all seen. You go to Google, you look for a project, you look for a DeFi protocol, and the first hit you get is some sort of scam page that is trying to get your private key, asking you for your seed. So there's a lot of phishing, a lot of scam projects, and a lot of, trying to steal from the end user going on. So what can we do about it, right? So how do you build a secure smart contract protocol or DeFi protocol? So the first thing to realize is that we are building financial software, right? So we all want to get away from the traditional finance sector. But one thing in common is that a lot of money is being moved around. So you can't get away from some of the security that is also present in traditional finance. And there are a number of things to do there, right? So the first thing to realize is that if you are dealing with financial software, get a domain expert, right? So if your team is composed of a bunch of programmers, they're probably not aware of all the economic impacts of your model. So get an economist, get a financial expert on your team. Second thing to do is to specify and document everything, right? You can't build a financial model and you can't expect your team to build it if it's not properly specified. And then very importantly, slow down, right? So the traditional finance sector is very slow and we all want to get away from this. But one thing they've learned in 50 years of financial software is that these things can't be rushed. And there's certain things that you have to do, like test everything, have a test-based approach from the start and take your time. Let's keep things simple, right? A lot of these DeFi projects try to build everything at once, and they're really much bigger than they have to be. DeFi is meant to be composable, so have smart contracts that use other smart contracts built on smaller blocks. Build your project up from scratch in smaller components and just reuse stuff and build on it. So I've got a set of best practice guidelines, which, if I had more time, and in a more technical setting, I would probably get into much deeper, but I'll just run through them quickly. So the first thing to do in a DeFi project is obviously to make sure the model is sound, right? And for that, as I already said, a specification is really important. You have to think about edge cases. How does a DeFi protocol behave with very small numbers, like small liquidity pools? How does it behave with very large numbers? How does it behave in weird use cases like zero block staking, or flash loans suddenly being there? And all, can the model be gamed? Can someone have an unfair incentive to do certain things? That's all stuff to model and to think about. And I talked about specification, right, and documentation. So when we get DeFi protocols to audit, very often we find one of these spot the difference type scenarios, right? So the implementation doesn't fully match the specification. And these small differences, they can make a big difference. So implement what you've specified, right? That's very important. Think about composability. What can your project be used in combination with? What else can use your protocol and go wrong? Think about these things. Here's a composability example just to show, how many projects you actually have to trust. Let's say you use a Y pool on Curve. Now I won't talk you through the whole thing, but you're actually trusting the smart contracts of 9 protocols, 3 of which are actually centralized entities, right? So it's not always as decentralized as we think, and it's not always a single protocol. So think about limitations imposed by the blockchain. We all know about these. Everything is public, everything is deterministic, right? Anything can be front run. So there's a lot of incidents that can be avoided just having these limitations in mind. Think about trade-offs, right? Smart contracts are meant to be immutable. Sometimes they're meant to be upgradable. There's obviously a conflict there. Think about centralization, trustless, building in fail-safe obviously gives you the option to stop things if something goes wrong. But, you are holding a privileged centralized position in that case. So these are all trade-offs to consider. Testing, right? Testing is very important from the beginning, and we actually teach projects testing, not just unit testing. There's also a thing called fuzz testing. There are integration tests. There are a lot of things that can be found out. UI testing, having actually users interact with the system. And testing should really be taken as an integral part of the development process from the beginning. Now, imagine you know how to do secure smart contracts, how to develop everything as secure as possible. You still have an operational problem, right? So can you trust all your developers? Can you trust that guy you hired over the internet on some freelance platform that you don't really know? Can you trust him not to build in a backdoor into your system or have a simple exploit in one of the smart contracts only he's aware of? How do you communicate if things go wrong? Do you have a key recovery protocol or for your admin keys, if you have any? Is your infrastructure for your front end up to date? Can your DNS name be spoofed, right? There are a lot of projects suddenly have their main entrance, their front end hijacked, and then people are interacting with the wrong smart contracts. So that's all off-chain operational security you should think about. Okay, and then what you should do, of course, is to get an audit, right? Preferably with us. But, joking aside, a smart contract or protocol audit is quite expensive. But compared to the marketing project of the typical DeFi project, it's actually quite small. And it's a good investment into marketing as well. You can use an audit report as a very effective marketing tool. And yeah, that's it. I've just about run out of time. And here are my details. We are Oak Security. You can find us at Twitter on Security Oak. And I'm happy to answer any questions after this or now if there's time. I don't know. Thank you.